responses to RFP 2025-01. Let's see, call to order and pledge allegiance. Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now do the roll call. Committee Member Gay.
Here.
Committee Member Fauchcourt.
Here.
And Councilman Gamsby is present. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments to the agenda?
Well, can I look at your agenda just for a second? Well, are we gonna have another meeting after this? Is this our final meeting?
I mean, it doesn't have to be our final meeting. What
No.
do you have in mind?
Well, I don't know, I mean, I have some other stuff I want to clarify, but if we just stick to this. Oh, okay, I do want to add this brief discussion on the lack of the management rep letter in the previous audits and the potential independence issue with the previous auditor.
Would you like to move that? Make a motion?
I make a motion, we add those two items to the agenda.
It's been motioned and seconded that we had a brief discussion of independence and lack of representation letters
Management representation letters in previous audits.
to the agenda as item 7 after vote on recommendation. It's been motioned and seconded. Is there any discussion? No discussion. We'll bring it to a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. The motion carries 3 yeses and 0 nos. No further additions or deletions to the agenda. We will move to citizens from the floor. Would anybody like to speak? No? Okay. Then we can go ahead and move forward with the RFP bids. So I printed out copies of the evaluation criteria that were in the RFP themselves that we can use to grade it. We're going to start with Kenneth and Daniels, who presented us with this RFP. He provided us with the 4 copies as well as the digital copy. I did go through prior and create my own grade rubric. I can figure out which one this is. Probably should have labeled them this one.
How will these score sheets be, we'll maintain those in the record, and
They'll be maintained in the record. I'll give them to Leslie to include in the town files, so if anybody asks for them. So I went through line by line of the RFP to make sure that all the information was included. And it was all complete, so I did mark that. On this response document that I made for myself, the respondent provided response before due date, did not have proper contact with town personnel, and provided a complete response. So in my opinion, he has passed all 3 criteria of the pass-fail section. And it might be Leslie, it might be the auditor. Hi Leslie.
Hi.
As you can see, nobody came to present, so we're just going through it all. To catch you up, I made a rubric, I guess you would call it. I went through the RFP to make sure that all the contents were in there per section 5. And for our first respondent, Kenneth M. Daniels, it was all complete. And we had he provided the response before the due date, did not have improper contact with town personnel, and provided a complete response. So,
Okay,
in my opinion, he passed all three of the pass-fail criteria, and I was just about to ask the other members if they feel that's accurate.
I agree. A pass for the first three criteria.
I agree.
Right, so,
How many applications came in?
2.
there were 2 bids, one from Carr, Ingram, and one from Kenneth M. Daniels. All right, so how do we wanna, do you want to calculate your scores and then we'll discuss it? Probably the best way for us to handle the cost, qualifications, et cetera, section.
Well, there's clearly a winner and a low, I mean, a high and a low there, so I'm not sure I just wanna make sure I understand the scoring system here. Are we going to assign a number 1 through 10? Or,
So for the 5 sections, it'll be 20%, so it'd be a number 1 through 20. In the case of the cost, you would give 20% to the lowest bidder, and then assign a value relative to 20% based on the cost of all the other bidders.
so they get 10.
So it'd be whatever you feel is necessary. So the only reason I wanted to set that up is so that if we get like 25,000 and 26,000, 25 isn't getting 20% and 26 is getting 0%. But if there's one that is substantially more than the other one, you can rank it as high or as low as you feel is appropriate.
Okay, so the most we can assign 20% on here, on the cost.
Correct.
And where would you like us to put our scoring number?
You can put it here, under, so it'll say criteria 1 cost, it'll be an explanation. Vendors will be ranked based on the proposal cost, with least expensive vendor receiving 20%, subsequent vendors receiving a percentage relative to the cost of lowest vendor. Under that it says comments, so you can write whatever comment you want to put
Okay.
there. And then there's a box
Okay.
to the right of that comment section that you can put your
Okay.
score in.
Are we just gonna turn them into Leslie after we're done and she'll tally the scores? Is that what we're gonna do?
Whatever. I think y'all can probably tell.
Yeah, well, we need to tell each other because we're gonna vote on recommendation at the end.
Okay.
I mean, this is a local firm, has this person ever been an auditor for this town of White Springs before?
He was our last, he most recently did the audit in 2018, which you could argue was the last audit.
That was done before everything else? What was his term that he was serving?
What do you mean?
Like, what time period did he do the audits? Like, did he skip one, or did he do all the audits he was supposed to do?
I don't know. I just know he did 2018.
Is it 20% or nothing, or
For which section?
the percentages?
No, so if you think they hit everything, the best somebody could hit it, you give them 20%. If you think it was lacking in some regard, you should take off a proportional percentage, what you think they're lacking. Did you wanna look at the RFPs now?
Hmm?
Did you wanna look at the RFPs?
You curious?
Are you gonna post them online?
The public record, so you can if you want.
I was,
I
I
got
was
it.
suggesting, I was just asking.
Thank you.
Let's see, you're ready to move on to the next one? Gretchen?
I'm struggling with saying the last comment on the first one, but yeah. Let's try to see if I can modify it better.
Okay, I can give you 2 minutes, that's fine. So are you working on the second one now?
Yeah, well, not really, but just reading his doesn't have.
I'm complete.
You did both of them already? Alright, so I did go through the Carr Riggs Ingram one in a similar way, and I found that they were missing questions 10 and 11 about subcontracting work papers, so I sent them an email. So they provided replies. don't know if that'll change any of your information, but. So those were the only things I saw missing, they were provided, so I marked them complete. Does everyone agree with that?
I do.
Yeah.
You good?
Okay.
Scott, are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have graded them ourselves, so we will tabulate the grades and then discuss which RFP we want to recommend. So starting with Kenneth and Daniels. Scott, do you want to give me your scores for criteria 1 through 5?
Criteria 1, 20. Criteria 2, 15. Criteria 3, 20. Criteria 4, 15. Criteria 5, 15.
So that's 85?
Yep.
Gretchen?
Okay, mine was, 20 for one, 10% for two. 3 was 20, 4 I put 20, and then 5 was 10%.
That's 80?
80.
So for me, I put 20s for 1. I put 18 for 2. I put 20 for 3. I put 17 for 4. And I put 10 for 5. Which was a score of 85. So Gretchen, for Carr, Briggs, and Ingram, do you want to give me your 1 through 5?
I have the first one at 10%. The second one is 20. Third one is also 20. The fourth one is definitely 20. And then the fifth one was also a 20%.
Scott?
I have 19 for 1. I have 20 for 2. I have 20 for 3. I have 15 for 4. And I have 20 for 5. 94.
So I had 0 for 1. I had 20 for 2. I had 15 for 3. I had 18 for 4. And I had 10 for 5. So 63%. So the average for number 1 is 83.3%. The average for the second one is 82.3%. So I guess we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And that is very, very close.
I think the big difference is on item 3, Mr. Daniels didn't really We don't have any way to judge the size of his clients. I mean, we can guess, but the other folks give a lot of detail, and they have a lot of clients with $1 million and less revenue.
So I did a lot of due diligence in this area. And I went and looked up all of their small clients. So I looked up Cross City, they're no longer using them, they're using James Moore as their auditor. Banning Springs is no longer using them, they're using Powell & Jones. Okeechobee, I pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry, is using CLA. Webster, Florida is using Rivero, Gordomere and Company. Yankeetown is using James Moore. Alfred, Florida is using Grimsley and Associates. Alpha, Florida is using Grimsley and Associates. Callahan, Florida is using Powell & Jones. Greenwood, Florida is using Grimsell and Associates. Hastings, Florida dissolved in 2018. Inglis, Florida is using Powell & Jones. Orchard, Florida is using CRI Grace, but they're a very rich gated community. And Walaka is using James Moore. So all of their smaller clients are past clients. They're not currently using them. The ones that they gave us references for that I looked up are using them, but they're huge organizations that aren't very relevant to us, like Jacksonville, Gainesville. Is it Callahan, I think that was? The one by Orlando.
Melbourne.
Melbourne, that's it. So they're, from that perspective, we're trying to hire somebody to bring grandma to go get the groceries, and they sent us the resume of a cargo ship captain. Like, it's a bit overkill.
Do you think it's overkill that we get somebody that's had very varied experience? They obviously take a lot of time to educate their staff. Looking at the list of classes they take. Just because their brochure is thicker does not mean they're shouldn't be penalized, I don't think.
Well, I didn't penalize them for that. I penalized them for having clientele that is significantly larger than us. You can have an organization that's a lot simpler and a lot smaller needs. And going with somebody who has a much smaller local clientele, to me, is important.
And the only reason why the main reason why I dinged Kenneth Daniels is nowhere in there did he mention he worked with us before. In what years did he work with us? And what audits were late? And he didn't really give a detailed explanation of what he was gonna do for our unique set of issues that we have. Whereas they did outline a lot of the issues that we are currently facing and what they're gonna do and their approach. I mean, their price is definitely not good. And it's much higher, but I think looking at the detailed level of work compared to the lack of detail that we have for the other one.
So as the audit process goes, I found the actual process that they were offering more compelling. Like,
Yeah.
they talked about transition management.
Yep.
They talked about doing an IT audit as the first step, which was kind of a mixed bag for me, because if we're just using QuickBooks and we're not very sophisticated, they say that our IT director is going to work with them to do an IT audit, and that's kind of like, well, we got, a town manager and a bookkeeper who are not going to be super sophisticated for this. But also another area that I think they did better is they have what amounts to a business continuity plan, which Kenneth Daniels basically just said NA to that in response.
But who's gonna take over if he gets hit by a bus?
Yeah, that's an NA, so that isn't great.
I see the IT person, I think, I see value in that because we need to integrate our general ledger system with our payroll and our utilities. And we're not gonna get that from Ken. Ken's gonna do an audit. We're not gonna get a lot of advice on combining our financials and streamlining our processes. But if Ken has two people, I mean, he has two people on the staff, he and one other person. If he has, I don't know what his other workload is, but if he has let's say he has a client that has some issues and he has to spend a lot more hours on that client, I mean, where does that put us? I mean, we're new. I mean, I think maybe some of the issues we have might take a little longer than just normal. Who would he farm that out to? I just think that we need a deeper bench. And that, to me, that's the benefit of Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. They have the experience just because they're not doing the small clients now. People rotate auditors. It's not a bad sign. They have the peer review, just like Ken does. I mean, to me, the experience they have and they gave us the revenue of their clients. They have an IT person, they have a deep bench. Their fees a lot more, but we've really skated on fees the last 4 or 5 years. I talked to another firm that didn't bid, and he said, if I went to a place like White Springs, he goes, I would start out at $30,000. That's what it would cost me to do the audit. That's assuming they had their books in order. They had staff that knew, had history. And he goes, I would go up for there. He goes, I know about White Springs. He goes, looked at it. He goes, I suspect I would get out of there with about $80,000. I wouldn't be able to collect it, so I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to be it. So I don't see Carr, Riggs being really that out of line because I have audit experience and I know all the checklists, the memos that you have to do to the file that nobody will ever read, that you have to have in case you ever get sued. I mean, you still have to do all that stuff, whether it's White Springs or whether it's Tallahassee. We had a very inexpensive audit and we're finding out we don't have management representation letters. Those aren't even audits. But we got a good fee from a 1 or 2 man firm. We've been down the small man route. And if they get stuck on an issue, they don't have a paycheck that week. That's why I tend to, although I know Ken Daniels and I've worked with him on other audits for other organizations, but I think in the circumstance we have here, we need someone to help us organize our financials. And so everything is tied in the inventory, fixed assets, payroll, water and sewer, all that. I see we get that out of a bigger firm. That's why I favor Carr, Riggs, and Ingram.
And would there be scope creep with them? Like they're bidding 52, they've given us a pretty detailed overview of what they're going to provide us. If we start asking them to rearrange our water system, they're gonna turn around and say, sure, but it's gonna be 10 grand.
No, we're not asking them to do that, but by the time they do an audit or two, they will have a feel and they will see the needs that we have and they will see what our capabilities are. I've never had a situation where the audits that I worked on where the fee was raised unless we found something really illegal or, something that wasn't disclosed initially that we found on our own that we had to do work on. That's the only time I've ever really seen audit fees increased over what was proposed. That happens. But I think with the report we got from the Auditor General, I don't think there's any mystery here. So I wouldn't be worried about something coming out of the closet or got to spend a lot of time on.
What's your opinion, Gretchen?
Pretty much the same. I think at this point, with the number of years that we've had subpar audits, at this point, the next 3 years, because this is just a 3-year bid for now, going with a larger firm with more experience, if there is business continuity and if something happens, I felt they're gonna be more responsive. They have the background and knowledge. And nothing wrong with Kenneth Daniels, but he's a, one-man show versus, their Gainesville office, I think, has 32 employees in it. So we're, like, the lack of responsiveness that we have right now, we're asking questions. The last meeting we had, and we waited how many weeks to get answers? But I feel like,
We don't have answers, so.
yeah, we still don't have answers. So I don't think this is gonna be that, the odds of that happening now with Carr versus, Kenneth Daniels is probably slim.
So we're just gonna make a
Somebody-
recommendation to council anyway, and you're a vote there, so.
Yeah, but I'm gonna be a vote for whatever the audit committee recommends, so. So what would be proper, somebody would make a motion to adopt one of them, and then somebody would second it, and then we'd move to discussion and vote. Would be,
Then I'll make a motion that we accept Carr and Ingram due to their experience and their deep bench and the detail they gave us in their client list and their revenues and the extra professionals that they have listed in their roster. They have an IT person, they have a fraud person.
That's the motion.
it's been motioned and seconded that we accept the proposal from Carr, Riggs, and Ingram. Is there any discussion?
None for me.
All right, so let's bring it to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries, 3 yeses, 0 nos. And so we will recommend that on Thursday. Yeah, we need to take these and put it with them. So we can move to item 7. Scott wanted to have a brief discussion on independence and lack of management representation letters.
Well, in the last meeting we had, we discussed we have a potential auditor independence issue, lack of disclosure of firm change. So it appeared to me that, or appeared to a lot of people, that there was no distinction between Richard Powell and Caleb Perla, or their various versions of Powell and Jones CPA. And I just don't want that to drop through the cracks, so that's why I want to get it on the record for this meeting. And Haven't really heard anybody else say anything about that.
So after you had left, which meeting was it? The audit review meeting. I had asked Leslie if, they had mentioned it during your phone call to the Auditor General. Leslie had mentioned that they said as far as they're concerned, the audits are complete. So I know our previous meeting that we had, we left it off that we would be talking to the Auditor General. That meeting happened. They said as far as they're concerned, we're complete. So my question to you is, what do you want to see as next steps?
Well, I want to hear what Leslie has to say about it.
Geez, put me on the spot here, huh? So, I mean, we've talked about this and the issue that's there. We do know the Auditor General has accepted the audits that have been submitted. We know that they're aware of the issue. That is not something that they dig deep into. And so it's really a matter of how the council wants to proceed and if this committee wants to make a recommendation. Part of me believes that, especially if we're gonna have a high-powered auditing team come in, that we have them come in and see what they find about the prior audits. And if they notice that there's a problem, because, audit's building after audit, then I think we look into it further. But if that's not the case, I think it's a matter of going backwards instead of forwards. It's an unfortunate situation for the town to have to deal with. It puts us in a very tough spot to have to make the call. One of my biggest concerns would be if we needed to do the audits over again. We're how many years back? How much staff time is that gonna take to dig up those records, to provide someone else with all that paperwork and documentation? And if we think we didn't have anyone to sign the management letter this year, we're definitely not gonna have someone to sign the management letter for 2020 and 2021 or 2022. I think we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And I think that's one of the reasons why we were kind of looking at some in-between alternative, whether it be having someone come in and do a peer review of the past audits, something that gives us some type of confidence in what's there. We're going back, Scott, 2020, 2021?
The 2020 audit was Richard Powell. According
Okay.
to the paper trail that we've now been given, Richard Powell, he did a disclaimer audit, which is not an audit. By definition, that's not an audit. So we didn't have an audit in 2020. We turned it in, and it looks like an audit when you go to the Auditor General website, but by definition, it's not.
Right.
And the second thing I added to the agenda, and this will dovetail, and I think make it more clear, the lack of the management representation letter. I think that the town, we were purposely and intentionally misled about the audit firm change and transition. I think Mr. Pearl almost said that they didn't want people to know that he had bought Mr. Powell out. But, I don't know if you read between the lines, but that was the meeting where he was here over at the library. That's just not what an auditor does. That is, to me, I have the same license that they have. I go to the same training, and that is just not done. We self-regulate our profession just like Leslie does. And to me, that was just trying to pull one over on somebody that doesn't fly with me. And I would recommend the town file a complaint with the Board of Accounts. See, what the Auditor General said was, we don't get into that. That's between you, the town, the Board of Accountancy and the AICPA. Doesn't mean it's fine, it's not fine. We did not get an audit, and so I will pass this out. Just for ease of entry, I cheated and used the ChatGPT. So what?
I object.
So, Nick, you want one of these?
I would love one.
Ms. Gamsby, you want one of these? Okay, so what we have here is on the first page, I asked Mr. Garner if he had found any management representation letters in any of the files. He basically said, this is the only one I can find, and it's not signed on our computer, so he can't produce it. I asked Mr. Perla in an email on July the 14th, can you produce management representation letters for 20 and 24? Well, Mr. Powell did 2020, so he might not have had that. But he says, I don't have time right now to dig in the deep past. This wasn't a deep past. He can't produce a management representation letter for 21, 22, or 23. The only reason he got one for 24 was because Mr. Garner signed it on his first 30 days in office. He has no idea about the stuff he attested to. Now, that's the procedure, and that's what the audit guidelines would say. Mr. Garner did the right thing, but he was not in a position to provide the auditor any information. So at a minimum, we do not have an audit for 21, 22, or 23. And if you go over to about 4 pages, I should have numbered them. It says, if management refuses to furnish a representation letter, the auditor faces a scope limitation. And that requires him to disclaim an opinion or withdraw from the engagement. Now, to disclaim an opinion, if he gave a disclaimer opinion, that would not be an audit. That's just what we had for 20, I think it was 21. When we went to the Joint Legislative Audit Committee and Chairman Caruso said a disclaimer is not an audit at all. I said, no, sir, that's why we're here. So really we should have a disclaimer opinion for every audit that Mr. Perla did. So it's not about what the Auditor General accepts, it's what the state statute says, it's about what your citizens expect, it's that the town government represents. Now, most people don't know that, I just happen to know it, because that's what I have done for a living before, so I know where to look and I know what to expect. So I think the town is in a position to file a complaint with the Board of Accountancy on both firms. Because Mr. Powell, being an employee of the town, those are his words, not mine, he's the CFO, he knew exactly what we were not getting, that we should have been getting. That's what I want. That's my position. So we could go hire someone an auditor to look at these statutes and give us an independent opinion, or Leslie can do it, but the audit guidelines that audits are done by say we don't have an audit by definition. And the citizens are due an audit, state statute requires an audit. Doesn't matter what the Auditor General says. Had we had an audit, we don't. You might recall when Mr. Perla gave us his draft, he had overstated revenue, something that was easily been detected just with an analytical review procedure. I don't think he really did the audit with due care with some of the things that I mentioned them, and without even an argument, he just changed his report. Everything I suggested, he changed the report. The footnote on the phosphate mine, the overstated revenue, a couple other things, but I don't think, I know by definition we did not receive an audit report, an audit. Well, he can't produce a management representation letter. And I think the town should file a complaint with the Board of Accountancy. Now, what do our what would our lenders say when they find out we haven't had an audit since 20? Let's look in some of our debt covenants, look in some of our grant applications. Let's say something comes up that's unexpected, and we don't go back and do those audits. Do we have a council that was covering things up or complicit? Now we're talking about the current council. In my opinion, the current council's duty is to procure audits. For those years. So Leslie, you asked me what I want, that's what I mean, I can't say anything else because I know they're not audits, and I know the training that both of those gentlemen have to go through, their ethics classes they take, stuff fly.
My question is, how does the town, the complaint part, I understand, but how does the town fix this? In a way that, I understand that we could make a claim on their, errors and omissions, but from a standpoint of man service, the amount of work that it's gonna take, what would be required? Would they have to be redone completely? Would they peer review work? I don't know the answer to that.
I don't think an auditor would come in and do a peer review, because now he's got his foot in the liability trap. I mean, if an auditor's gonna give any opinion whatsoever, and I think he's even required, he has to go through the same audit procedures. The testing, the understanding of internal control. But I think when we sent this RFP out, I don't think we had to have, now we need to disclose to our auditor, at least in my opinion, without these management representation letters, which when he looks at the work papers, he needs to know, maybe when he looks at the work papers, there's gonna be a management representation letter in there. But Mr. Perla has never produced one. So at minimum, we need to let whoever the auditor is know that we have not had a management representation letter that we can get a copy of since Ken Daniels did the audit for 2018.
What happens if, because it looks like Perla just didn't even bother to look for it, right? If he produces the management representation letters, then now we're back to the independence issue, right?
Right.
Or
I can't imagine a CPA not getting that right off his plate, because right here in the audit guidelines that I give you, that's just one you don't miss. I don't know how he got by his peer review. Because if he's not getting them here, he probably didn't get any, well, I can't say what he did anywhere else. But we
Maybe we need
technically don't
to
have
set up a
plans.
workshop with the town council then, as the next step. Go through all this information. At a minimum, do a straw poll, see where everybody's head is as far as filing a complaint. Right now, we're just talking.
But
We're
yes,
having the same conversation we've had 4 times already, so.
we haven't had this conversation because I've not presented you with the the audit standards that require the management representation letter. Now we have to assume that it's 4. I was only asking for 1 when he presented the audit for 23. But I think Leslie has to go look at our own covenants and whatever might be in the grant documents. And if we don't have audits and we agreed that we would provide audits, we're in default.
how about if, one of the first things I do is do an actual demand that he produce any management letters within 30 days. Let's start
Sure.
there and see if that sparks him. Then the next question I would have is, let's say if we are in a position where audits are being redone. Who's going to sign those management representation letters to then get those audits
Standards say Mr. Garner would because he's the executive in charge.
Is there anything, and this is what I would want to see too, is the timeliness of the management letters? For instance, do they have to be provided at the time the audits are done? Can they be provided later? I don't know the answer to that.
The standards say the specific date, the letter should be dated the date of the audit. is dated.
Okay.
So if the audit was dated June 17th, the letter should be dated June 17th.
Gotcha. So we can start there. That puts us at about 30 days out. So maybe probably early, since we run up on the holidays pretty much about then. Maybe schedule something for the new year. We'll see. If I get anything, I'll share it. If I get any response, I'll let you know. If I get no response, I'll let you know.
If I did not bring these issues up, with the knowledge that I have and experience I have, I would be not doing my job that the council put me on this board to do. That's why we have it, that's why it's important to have experience on our audit committee. We didn't have an audit committee for 3 years that interacted with an auditor, maybe 4.
Right.
If we had, this issue would not have, if I would have been on it, we would not be in this situation for 4 years. It would have happened 1 year.
So do we want to wait for that to bear fruit or not, or do we want to set up an audit workshop for the whole of the town council the week of January 5th? I mean, even if the management letters show up, we're still gonna have the independence issue that we're gonna have to talk through.
I think we can wait to set it up, because if we're looking at 30 days for about mid-December, we'll know. And then we can set it up. Knowing
I
what
agree with that.
because there'll be more than enough time to do notice, proper notice.
But, I mean, I do think that, I've never seen the full scope of what kind of documents the town has executed over the years. I mean, equipment, loans, I mean, all those things probably need to be looked at. I know I have to, at least every mortgage I have to at least do this once a year, send in my financials and swear that I'm not in default.
Loans and grants. We'll get those pulled.
If we made grant applications in the past and attached a financial that represents itself as an audit and is not, we certainly don't want to get on a list that we've submitted inaccurate information obtaining state grants.
Okay, so our path forward now is that Leslie's gonna draft a demand letter requesting all, what exactly, just all
Management
representation?
representation letters for the years that Scott requested.
Yeah, I would request them for 20 through 24, Mr. Powell, Richard Powell's year that he did the audit, and then when Pearl sold the firm in November of 22,
Yep.
that was 21, 22, 23, and 24. 24 is not a problem technically, that's legit.
Okay.
And then based on that results, likely we will set up a workshop week of January 5th. We'll do that closer to then.
Yeah.
And how are we gonna create an agenda for that workshop?
Well, I think, I'm just one person on the committee that I think we need to have someone other than me, or maybe Leslie can talk to another CPA and get them to say, okay, what, can you give me cite me the audit standards that address this management representation letter and the yellow book and all the technical jargon that she would need if she were gonna write a legal letter. I mean, I'm not comfortable doing that, but, you know, I can't change a toilet, but I know what to call a plumber.
Are there individuals in the accounting community that you can think of that would handle this type of stuff, like accounting sort of malpractice?
Accounting, legal,
Or malpractice, that kind of, area.
I do have a name, yes, sir.
Would, if the new CPA firm for the next audit starts, do they have an introductory class? I know when I used to install software for TV and radio stations, we would take the management of the station and sit them down and say, okay, this is how we look at what you do, and explain the whole process to them.
So one of the
I wonder if
Carr,
Carr,
things that they did at Carr and Ingram is they didn't just say, yeah, we'll follow your timeline. They created their own timeline with work that starts in January. So the initial pre-field work, sort of scoping stuff, they're talking about starting in January. Is this something, if we were to hire them on, that can be brought up in this initial work of like, hey, we have these issues with these
Well,
audits, like, can you guide us? Is this something that's gonna have to get redone? Like, what's,
Well, I think we need to disclose to them that it's possible that we don't have audits for those years and let them do whatever they
so
do.
in the RFP, there is something that says we may have to redo previous year audits. So, I didn't go into the detail about the management letters, but it was mentioned that we may have to redo previous year audits. So is this something that will be that we can, or it will be brought up in the beginning, like the very early stages of this next year's audit?
Well, it should be one of the first things, when they come and do the audit, they'll do and talk to Mr. Garner. In January, they'll start probably reviewing try to review Mr. Pearl's work papers, get as much understanding of White Springs as they can, do all the documentation and the checklist. And all
Another
that.
thing they did in their audit is they have a full process for transition management off of Perla onto them. So that would probably happen even before whatever happens with us. So would this stuff all start becoming red flags and coming up before, while they're in that process of transition?
Should we?
I suspect, they're gonna ask minutes of our audit, they're gonna ask for minutes from this committee, they'll be looking at town council minutes and to familiarize themselves with the engagement.
it would seem that it would be in their best interest to level the playing field, to let people, the council know, this is what is gonna happen. This is what an audit really is. You haven't had one, this is what one is really about. And this is what you're gonna have to do, and you have to level up.
So then if you read the management representation letter, it basically says, we're gonna tell you everything that we possibly know. And this is part of our disclosure, this will have to be part of our disclosure.
Yeah.
But I think if Leslie were to write the letter and ask Mr. Perla and Mr. Powell, or Mr. Perla for the executed management representation letters, that could happen tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then I can find you a couple of names of CPA firms that do legal type.
Yeah, there's a firm, now they're from down south, but apparently they do it. I know them. And there's one in Jacksonville, I'm familiar with them as well. So I can kind of check into them and see.
So if they say, sure, no problem, you meet some technicality because of your revenue or whatever, then we get that in writing, then I've done my job and I've let you know what I know about the audit process, and the town council's in good shape. If they come back and they say, Scott's half right, then we gotta address it. And, state statute's what governs, it's not what the Auditor General says. So that, I just wanted to bring that up, make sure that it can get dropped through the cracks.
So do we want to put together the audit committee meeting then sometime in December? After the 30 days are up, to discuss the meeting for the town council? And we get some idea of what needs to be on an agenda? Because honestly, I don't really like the idea of just setting a workshop and being like, we're gonna talk about something.
Well, don't we have to go ahead and engage the auditor? I mean, what we're talking about now is done. Stopping us from engaging the auditor to audit 25. So those were two mutually exclusive things, the way I see it.
All right, so let's get the letter done. Let's hopefully get these guys signed up. And we'll deal with a town council meeting probably sometime at the end of January, then when they've got their feet wet and we have a better idea of what's going to be recommended. So I will forget the week of January. Is there any more discussion?
Leslie, do you have any parting thoughts on where we're headed?
What's the process now for council? Cause I did see there are 2 dates for,
So
Making
my
a
original
recommendation.
plan was going to have our meeting tomorrow, but now that meeting's Thursday, so I don't know if that's gonna screw these dates up. I was planning on presenting our selection to the council during the next regular meeting, give them copies of the RFP, so they can take home and read them or whatever. I had wanted to set up a meeting to actually vote on it on the 18th, so next Tuesday.
you think you need that?
Do I think I need that? I mean, I kind of was expecting more than 2 responses, but we don't need that, but now that's the process in the RFP, so. Since that's the process in the RFP, we should follow it. Even if it's just a 10-minute meeting, people say, I do, and then it's over.
Okay. No other parting thoughts?
I have none. Motion to adjourn?
It's been moved to adjourn, is there a second?
A second.
It's been moved and second to adjourn, is there any discussion?
None.
All right, with no discussion, let's bring it to a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries, 3 yeses, 0 no's. The time is 7:20.